Hi, I'm Alex Kaczenksi, curatorial graduate intern at the Norton Simon Museum. This video series highlights works of art related to the exhibition All-Consuming Art and the Essence of Food, which explores a range of ways that artists depicted food and the act of eating, from production and distribution to anxieties about overconsumption or moments of food scarcity. Today, I'll discuss a pair of prints that reveal how artists questioned consumption habits of their day and addressed social matters, such as the dangers of temptation and excess, through their art. Let's consider an engraving, Gin Lane, by the 18th century British artist William Hogarth, who was famous for his satirical depictions of contemporary London life. Designed as a pair with a second engraving entitled Beer Street, the two prints promoted the comparatively safe enjoyment of beer over the dangerous consumption of gin, even if the 18th century distinction made between types of alcohol seems arbitrary today. These were published the same year as Britain's Gin Act of 1751, also called the Tippling Act, which curtailed the number of shops offering the high alcohol content beverage for cheap. Various economic factors, such as duties on ale and beer, international conflicts, and surplus grain, led to the affordability and profitability of gin in Britain during the first half of the 18th century. By 1750, there were 29,000 licensed gin retailers in the United Kingdom. The flourishing distilling industry fueled a moral panic about the so-called gin craze. In addition to fears that gin drinking might lead to increased vice or poverty in the working classes, some politicians worried that excessive indulgence by laborers would negatively impact commercial interests. Packed with details, Hogarth's two prints embody these anxieties. In Hogarth's Gin Lane, alcoholism is rampant and social order has disintegrated. Men starve and fight with animals. Women, suffering from disease, fail in their maternal duties, and children fall to their deaths or are fed gin instead of milk. Violence is everywhere. A child is brutally skewered, a woman is lowered into a coffin, and a man hangs from a noose in an abandoned building. Not so subtly, Hogarth places the rowdy Kilman distiller, source of this deadly drink, next to the mortuary. References to extreme poverty, like the emaciated man, unconscious or near death from too much liquor, emphasize the horrific environment in which these people live. Gin Lane's dilapidated setting was inspired by the famous slum of St. Giles near Covent Garden in London. Despite its reputation, the neighborhood was home to multiple industries and offered cheap, temporary housing for many workers, including a significant Irish immigrant population, which likely contributed to the local English biases against the area. Seeing such impoverished and unsanitary living conditions, Hogarth, like many of his middle and upper-class contemporaries, promoted charitable foundations intended to improve the plight of the poor. He was a supporter of multiple London hospitals, such as the Foundling Hospital, which focused on the care of abandoned children. It is possible that the print's emphasis on addict mothers and endangered children stems from these concerns. By comparison, on Beer Street, the convivial masses drink a national British beverage and social order and productivity are maintained. Details in Beer Street show a healthy and industrious populace, enjoying an overflowing beaker of beer during their break. Women sit with their bountiful baskets of fish and vegetables, and a blacksmith waves a large shoulder of mutton in the air. Sold at an affordable price for a middle-class viewership, Hogarth's political engravings communicate a belief that consumption habits dictate the ability to perform honorable labor. Although poverty was prevalent in 18th century England, the bedlam depicted in Gin Lane tells us more about upper-class fears than the true economic plight of the laboring poor. In fact, changing tastes, technical innovations for the mass production of porter beer, and increasing trade in lucrative products like tea meant that the gin craze would soon come to an end. In All-Consuming, Art and the Essence of Food, artists explore the theme of excess through a variety of visual strategies and across mediums, including paintings, prints, and sculptures. Hogarth's Gin Lane and Beer Street, images of perilous intoxication and healthy moderation, exemplify how artists communicated fears of overconsumption through their work.